And now the kid's got the toy and he's moving it around and the dog wants it, and the dog will either A, go through to get it, or B, grab it. And if the child's hand is wrapped around that ball, then, there you have it. The dog's got the hand in the mouth.
And there might be some possession that you don't even know took place. The ball could be laying in the living room. The dog's laying over here relaxing. The dog believes that that's his ball, but he's not messing with it at any time, currently. In walks the child, goes to grab the ball, immediate fight with the dog because the dog's like, hey, why are you grabbing my stuff?
Welcome to Police K9 Radio. I'm Gregg Tawney. With me, Rich Hartman. Today we are going to talk about the unsung heroes in the K9 world. And yes, that is not the handler. It is the support team for the handler. It is the families. It's the spouse. It's the kids. It's the immediate family. It's all of you that didn't sign up for this job and maybe didn't know what you were getting into, but you were drafted, you've been volunteered, you are now in it, and a police dog is either just entered your home or is on its way.
Yeah, and I think the first thing we should talk about are where are most of these dogs coming from, and what does their rearing look like? How are they brought up, and what is expected of a typical vendor, usually in Europe somewhere, before they send a dog off to us, and then it's put into service as a police dog. So I know you've been overseas. You've seen how they're raised, and obviously we've both dealt with a lot of imports. Let's talk about how they're raised and what's expected of those dogs before they're put into service.
Sure, and they can come from a number of different countries. You could get the dog that was raised with a family doing sport work. If you're one of the few, that is not the majority of the dogs we're dealing with. A lot of these dogs have been maybe started in sport work. They've mainly lived in the kennels all their life. They've had very little interaction with kids and anybody but their handler. And then we also have some dogs coming from Eastern Europe that are raised on basically like dog raising farms, and they've been out on a wire, and they've just been, somebody comes out, gives them a bite every day, lets them run around, hunt for their ball all the time. They have no manners. They will just as soon run through your couch, run through your kid, do whatever it takes to get the toy, because when we're testing police dogs, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Most of the things that we're looking for in police dogs are the things that we discourage pet dogs from doing. High possession of their toy. We really value that in a police dog. If we have a pet dog that won't let the owner have its toy, then that's discouraged, and we work on that. Being environmentally secure to the point of recklessness. Take a dog out, we test it, we put it on top of stairs, the table, cans, anything that makes noise and is scary, uneven ground. All of that, we want the police dog to thrive at that. I really don't want my pet dog jumping up on my dining room table at home or on the counter. But when we're testing police dogs, we have them jump on top of everything. Some independence, it's the ability to go out and look for a bad guy 200 yards away from us. Like all these things that we desire in a police dog are not things that we typically want from your average pet dog. So you can see how some of these desirable traits make it hard to live with a dog that is prepared to be a successful police dog.
Sure, and I always say the things that frustrate you about your dog is generally what makes them a good police dog. And they're, Rich, just like you said, these are the traits we're looking for. So for you families, the dog that's coming home is coming into your house. They have been selected for one thing, and that is their ability to have a lot of drive, a lot of enthusiasm. We selected them because they either will bite people or we're going to train them to bite people. And with that, I always like to think of it as like, there's always like this little bit of neurosis, right, that we're inheriting with all of this high drive. They're not normal dogs. It's like the Elon Musks of dogs. Like you're bringing them home, and like Elon's, great guy. He's like one of the top humans on this planet, right, with what he's doing for us. Yet he's a little odd. And the dogs that you're bringing into your home is very much like that. And, there's some byproducts or fallout, as Cameron would say. And that's something that you need to be ready to be prepared to handle when they get home. And so we're gonna jump right into it. So, Rich, we've got this brand new dog coming home, and handlers. I know we say, I got this dog. I've worked with him a little bit. I think I know him. And this goes to the families too. You really don't know this dog for several months down the line. And Rich and I were talking about the tough ones they seem like 99% of the time they're great, but there is 1% of the time that they may switch that or flip that switch and go into more of a primal mode and ignite a drive that previously wasn't there or that you didn't see.
Right.
So we got this dog and he's coming home. I'm a spouse of a handler. Like, I want to meet this dog. I want to make him part of the family. How are we starting this thing off?
I think the first thing that's important is have a place that you can keep your dog secure. Kennel, crate. Those two things are necessary. Crate if you're doing anything inside, any traveling with your dog that doesn't involve your police car. Kennel outside so the dog can go outside and not have full access to your backyard, because we know any good police dog is capable of jumping a 6-foot fence. So your backyard is not the answer to containment. Have to have a kennel, preferably a kennel with a roof on it. Again, we're buying athletes. We know they have the ability to climb a 6-foot fence. I don't want to figure out if they're good at that when I don't want them to be. So we're going to have a 6-foot kennel with a roof on it so we can maintain the dog in a place where it's safe. The handler is already working with the dog. We've already talked to the handler. They're hand feeding. They're doing those things. The dog does not need to come out to meet the family and shouldn't immediately come out to meet the family. The dog should be behind the fence in the kennel. When the family goes to start interacting with the dog, they should bring food with them. They should drop food into the kennel, say some nice things. If the dog is showing any kind of kennel reactivity, barrier reactivity, slamming himself against the kennel, barking at the family, that's a really good sign that the family probably should not be interacting with the dog at that point. But we want to spend weeks, if not months, where the family goes by, doesn't pay the dog a lot of attention, says nice things to the dog, drops some food in, and then walks off. Just to let the dog understand, like, hey, these people are good. They do nice things to me. I don't have any reason to be afraid of them. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. There's only one brand of dog food that we use and recommend. That is Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Inukshuk was created for working dogs and continues to be the top choice for all working dogs, from hunting dogs to sled dogs, and of course, police canines. Whether it be detection or patrol canines, visit inukshukpro.com, or you can find all of the formulas on chewy.com.
Yeah. Don't make it weird. Just kind of walk right out, throw some food, and walk away. We have, I just recently had one family have a dog, a police dog got home. The dog was in the crate, and they were throwing food into the crate, and a piece of kibble dropped in front of the crate and kind of under. So the wife reached down and was now face to face with this dog. Now the dog growls, shows some aggression. She's startled. She backed away. Is that going to be problematic?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And just to give a little more, I guess, history on that, a lot of times when we're working young dogs and we're adding pressure to them to make them do their job better, we'll have the dog on a sleeve bite, something as simple as that. And the decoy will reach over, give some facial pressure to the dog, make the dog feel a little nervous. The dog bites in, and then that pressure goes away. So we're teaching the dog, like, hey, if I stare at you, if I hover over the top of you, if I put an arm over the top of you, those are all pressures that you might deal with later on in an actual deployment. But the dog learns that it has the ability to turn that pressure off. So you as a spouse might want to go say hi to the dog, give it a little eye contact, go to pet it. That's the same picture that it's seen when it's getting better at doing bite work. And you might get a dog that says, hey, I know how to turn that pressure off, and then comes right at the spouse or the handler.
And they're either in a crate or a kennel. They feel pressure from potentially you, the spouse, and they have nowhere to go. So if they've got nowhere to retreat, then they have nothing else to do except for to maybe push forward in aggression. And if you, as the spouse, react and back off, which is the normal reaction, the dog is now you're reinforcing that behavior. And that's something that can build.
So the best thing you can do, drop a little food in there and then treat the dog like it's furniture. Essentially, don't stare at it. Don't try and interact with it. Just live in its orbit and let it be for a while. And let your handler, spouse, take care of the dog, walks, those kind of things.
Rich, when do we throw the kids into the kennel with the dog?
In the kennel with the dog, that would be a hard never. And kids are one of the most difficult things to introduce to a dog that is prey-driven, because kids look like prey, they act like prey, they squeak, they squeal, they run fast, and they're just unpredictable. So the dog thinks that those things are amazing.
So you just talked about prey drive. Let's talk about the different drives that's going to make it a little bit difficult, or we need to be aware of with this police dog, with any interactions with the family.
Yeah, we'll call it, how about we call it behaviors?
Okay, I like it. Just
that way
we get the purists.
Yeah, those aren't drives. Anyway, we're going to talk about behaviors that are going to cause a problem for your dog. And the number one thing that I see, especially with Malinois, is prey.
Yeah, and let's talk about prey real quick. So dogs are descendants from wolves. So if you think about a wolf in the wild, a rabbit jumps up and takes off running, and it's just instinct for them to jump up. They want to chase, they want to capture, they want to bite. There's the stages of prey, and I'm not going to go through them because I'm going to screw it up. But they want to chase, capture, bite, maybe even shake. And it's not like the dog is like angry, right? It's just something that's innate. And a lot of times there's not even a lot of thought behind it, but they're reacting. And kids are sometimes just like little rabbits, or they have toys in their hand, right? And so the dog, we're selecting these dogs because they have an incredible drive to interact with the toy. And now the kid's got the toy and he's moving it around and the dog wants it, and the dog will either A, go through to get it, or B, grab it. And if the child's hand is wrapped around that ball, then, there you have it. The dog's got the hand in the mouth.
And there might be some possession that you don't even know took place. The ball could be laying in the living room. The dog's laying over here relaxing. The dog believes that that's his ball, but he's not messing with it at any time, currently. In walks the child, goes to grab the ball, immediate fight with the dog because the dog's like, hey, why are you grabbing my stuff?
Yeah, and that's going to move into our next form of behavior. We'll call it like possession or resource guarding. And that's when the dog believes the particular object is his. And it could be food. It could be a ball. It could be really anything.
Their bed. It could be the space that they're laying in, and it could be the human that they're with.
There you go. Yeah. And so kids are kids, and you can't blame them for being kids. And sometimes they have a little stalky way, or they're playing with them, and they're kind of coming in nice and slow. And that is just a recipe for disaster, again, for the dog to kind of erupt in some type of aggression.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this as we continue, but not only does the dog have to have his behavior checked, when you bring a canine into your house, you have to make sure that you communicate with your family what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. And if you have kids that are too young, too immature to understand the rules, then those children and that dog have to stay separated until the kids are prepared to follow your rules. That's just, there's no way around that.
Yeah. Another type of aggression would be redirected aggression. So, and we're going to talk about this if you have other dogs or other animals, and now there's a scrap between the two. And if anybody's ever tried to break up a dog fight, they know it's a little perilous as you're trying to get in there and grab a collar, and the dog is just in that red zone per se. And so that would be another type of danger for children especially, or even for anybody trying to break up that fight.
And then the last one is going to be insecurity. And insecurity is, believe it or not, in a police dog, something we actually value a little bit, right? A little suspicion that's like, hey, what are you doing over there? The good thing about police dogs, and the reason why we choose them, is they act on that insecurity with a little bit of aggression. Like, hey, you're making me a little nervous, but I know how to turn this off. I can make you not a problem anymore by showing some aggression. So now dog's out free in your house, the canine's out free in your house, for whatever reason, it's low light, somebody walks around the corner, the dog sees a shadow, little nervous, but knows how to make that problem go away, and it's with aggression. And then pretty soon somebody who you love, who lives in your house with you, is getting bit because you let your dog out freely to patrol your own house, and the dog said, hey, I don't know who that is coming down the hallway, but it's scary. Sure. And my own dogs to this day, upon occasion, will bark at me if I've got backlighting, or if I come around the corner quick, or if I drive in a different car or something. And these are dogs that know and love me and I've raised, and they're like, hey, who's here? And then they kind of show some aggression until I let them know it's me. But if a kid, 5-year-old kid, doesn't have the way to communicate with the dog and just kind of bebops down the hallway in the middle of the night, that insecurity can definitely lead to aggression.
Sure. So in the beginning, and I say in the beginning, I'm talking the first several weeks. And Rich, I think you touched upon it. We go into months because we certainly don't know this dog within the first day. We don't know this dog in the first week. We don't know this dog for first several weeks. So we know what the dog is showing us. And where we run into problems is some of these dogs, 99% of the time, look great. And then it's that 1% that's going to get you in trouble. So one thing that I think as handlers need to know is, like, do not put your families in a position where they have to go in the kennel and actually feed them, put the food down, or if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, if you're going to leave and you're going to go somewhere for the night or 2 nights or whatever, the dog should be boarded. Don't put this upon your spouses to have to take care of this dog, because they're not trained to do so. And if anything goes wrong, it's going to be really problematic. And anything that dog does, there's a nexus to the police department and the liability.
Yeah, I think for boarding, if you have to put your dog somewhere while you're gone, Obviously, a professional boarding facility makes the most sense, but I know there are several agencies out there that utilize other handlers who understand the dog, have a relationship with the dog, and also have a secure facility at their home to be able to board their coworkers' dogs if that is what needs to happen.
Yeah. Hey, and some of the things that we've seen, for those of you that have pools, I have seen dogs that coexist with the family pretty well. And you put somebody in the pool and they start swimming, and you got a coworker that's swimming, and all of a sudden the dog is like, look, he wants to play with so-and-so. And next thing, oh, wait a minute, he's attached to so-and-so. And the handler's out there performing a lift off or a verbal out. Refer to our last episode for which in that situation. Really, whatever you can do to get the dog off. And so for those of you that do have a swimming pool, just realize your dog may react differently and may have been fine with people in your family, and then you go in the pool and you start splashing around, and you do kind of get, I think it's like a prey type response.
And keep in mind, if your dog has unfettered access to the pool and loves the pool and takes that as every time it goes outside, it has the opportunity to jump in and out of the pool. When you're doing a backyard search and your dog loves going in the pool and there's a pool in that backyard, you might have a dog that's like, hey, it's fun to chase the bad guy, but I also swim and I'm going to jump in the pool. And now you have a dog that you're having to redirect off a swimming pool. So everything that your dog does should come through you, not through their own desire to do those things.
Hey, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Rayallen Manufacturing. They've been engineering tactical and working dog equipment like harnesses, collars, leashes for military, police for over 75 years. They are continuously innovating. I always like to say, this is not your dad's Rayallen. They are always looking for the bigger and the better. We get all of our handlers now in the basic handler course deal directly with Rayallen. We get our harnesses, leashes, tugs, e-collars, gloves, Rec Specs, Hearing Dog Pro. All of our good stuff comes from Rayallen Manufacturing. Look them up, rayallen.com. I cannot recommend them enough. We only recommend people that we deal with, and these are good people, and they're in it for the right reasons. So because of that, rayallen.com. Yeah. Hey, one other thing here is do not trust social media. We see all these pictures with dogs, police dogs, and babies and families, and there's a certain percentage of dogs that make this jump, right? And it's the dogs that we all want, right? I want a dog that I can be a pet at home and then go bite bad guys on the street. But the reality is that's not the majority of police dogs. And which dog are you going to get? I have no idea. We do not, as well, Rich is somebody that's selecting dogs all the time, and me that's selecting dogs for our groups. I don't have kids a family that I take out there. Well, let's see how he's with kids. I have no idea. So when this dog comes home, just assume he's not good with kids, and then be pleasantly surprised if down the road this is a dog that actually can kind of start to fit within your family. But that shouldn't be your priority. And again, we are talking weeks and months down the road, and not days. You know.
And as a spouse, if your spouse has been selected as a canine handler, respect the fact that their job is to take this dog out and do work with it. As much as you might want to love up on the dog, cuddle with the dog, have the dog on the couch, if a dog is unproven on the street and it's spending a whole bunch of time being loved on in the house, the dog can choose to pick a new path in life. We've seen it with dogs that don't get a lot of bite work. They spend years in the police department. They visit dispatch. They hang out in records. They come into briefing. They go in the car. They get driven around every day, and they don't do a lot of work. And then at some point, they're asked to do work, and the dog is like, yo, man, I've been a pet now for the last year. I don't really care about biting bad guys. Like, I really like being loved on by dispatch.
Sure.
So we need to make sure that the dog, and this is for your spouse who's handling the dog, we need to make sure that the dog's priorities are right, and work needs to be priority number one.
Yeah. So if you are going to introduce your family to the dog, and for families and for kids, and say you have dogs, the best way we've found is to go on a walk, right? Yep. So now you're not dealing with this territorial type issue, and even your own pet at home, like this is a strange dog coming in, so the dog at home sometimes is an issue as well. But just go for a walk, and I shouldn't have to say it, but the handler takes the police dog, and then the spouse will take the pet. And when you're walking, sometimes the pet is up ahead, and the police dog can kind of now smell at a safe distance, and then you can kind of reverse. And that's going to give you a little bit of a pre-indicator of like, is this possible down the road, you know?
And this is what we do with those dogs, and we do this with aggressive pet dogs too. We walk parallel to each other for weeks. Labrador over here, whatever, Greyhound, whatever you got as a family pet, police dog here. They're walking parallel. So there's dog, human, both dogs heeling on the left, ideally. And we walk parallel for weeks just to make sure that everything's cool. At some point, 2 weeks down the line, we let the leash loose a little bit. They get to touch each other and then immediately pull back into the heel. And then we extend that amount of time that they're able to touch each other. You're going to know pretty quick if there's going to be a problem. If anything happens, if somebody freezes up, tail goes up, hackles go up, immediately pull back into the heel position and add more time into that parallel walking. They don't have to touch each other. They don't have to play. They have to learn to coexist before they learn to get along.
Yeah, tight leashes are your enemy. And so what you want to avoid is here's Fido, the house dog, and here's your police dog, and it's tight lines, and you're like, we're going to let him sniff, but we're really nervous about this, and I'm pulling back a little bit. You've just created a dog fight. So like Rich said, like side by side, loose leashes, but do it safely. Do that for a period of time.
Crate them next to each other, and eventually trade the crates out. So put the dog in the other dog's crate, let them smell each other, feed them in their own crates, switch them around. Just do a whole bunch of pre-work before they introduce to another dog.
And once I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I think my dog, I may try to integrate him into the house. I'm going to bring the dog and put him in a crate, and I'm just going to let him observe. And I'm going to observe my dog when the kids are running around. Is he getting spun up? Is he spinning in the crate? Is he every time the kid runs by? If he does, then
don't open it.
Don't open it. Yeah. And so that's going to be a telltale, right? And so if he's just chilling out, he's laying on his back, kids are running around. Okay, well, now this is going to give me some hope maybe in the future. And then when I do graduate from the crate, then I'm going to have him near me online. There's definitely going to be some rules, and then we kind of progress from there. Do not let your dog jump up on the couch. Do not let him jump up on the bed. That's a place of privilege. And we've had dogs, now I'm on the bed, I'm on the couch, and a spousal member or a child walks up face to face, and now we have an aggressive issue.
Or the couple is laying on the bed, they bring Fido up, Fido's hanging out with them, the handler leaves to go take a shower or do whatever they're doing, and then the spouse who's not the handler is left with the dog, and at some point, and we've seen this, the spouse says, hey, Fido, get down. And the dog's like,
who are you telling get down?
You don't get to tell me to get down, and this is pretty damn comfortable, and you're not my handler. And now we're in an argument with somebody who doesn't know how to handle the dog and a dog who's been trained to bite. Yeah. So you can see how that might go.
And you know what? This doesn't just go to Malinois and German Shepherds. We have had 2 Labradors in the last 6 years bite kids. And it was one of them where the Labrador's laying on the dog bed and the kid wanted to say goodnight to the dog, climbs on top of the Labrador. You're going to find out real quick that there's that old saying, leave a sleeping dog lie. Yeah, you will get some aggression rooted out in that type of environment. And then we had another one where the dog was on the couch and kid goes up face to face and dog didn't appreciate that. Dogs they're not like humans. Like we want to be huggy. We want to be, hey, buddy, and smile. In the dog's world, if you're making eye contact with them and you're smiling, that's more of a threat. And a hug, that's not really in their, that's not in their wheelhouse for affection. So, they look at that as like, oh, you're trying to dominate me. You're making me insecure. And again, these dogs are taught to bite. So that's one of the ways they solve pressure and they solve problems.
Keep in mind, we realize, and Greg talked about this earlier, on social media, in your own department, dogs you've seen, we know that there's dogs, and we refer to them as unicorns because they are literally that rare, that are perfect at this. They're great on the couch. They're great on the bed. They go on picnics with the family. They vacation. They do everything that they're expected to do and still do police work. That's not normal. That is the exception to the rule. And some of those, I would argue, probably don't do police work as good as they should. So, and again, I'm sure we'll hear about that. But again, the focus is on canine work first. And then if the dog can fit into your family life, great. And we, like I said, we understand that there's other dogs out there that you've seen that like, oh, but that dog does great with the family. Don't base that dog on your experience at home. You guys have to develop your own path with your own dogs, and it needs to move at the pace that the dog is willing to let that happen, not at the spouse's pace.
Good. Well said.
I think that covers everything, and I think this is really important. And the reason why we've put this out is because it seems across the board, across the nation, that there's just a lot of spouses that are excited to get the dog, and we want that to happen. We want you to be proud of your spouse for getting this new selection, getting this new dog, but there is no hurry, and there shouldn't be any hurry to incorporate that dog into the family as a pet. The dog is still a tool. It's a police tool. It's a working tool. Same as a taser, same as a gun, same as anything else that can cause some damage. Have some respect for it. Treat it responsibly, and I think you're going to have a much successful lifespan with the dog living with your family.
Yeah. Until next time.
Train hard.
And be safe.